We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy.
True. After she teaches us that old slave song, she has us line up the chairs and has the black kids sit in the back of the bus and the white kids sit in the front. And that's how we lined up to go on field trips, with the white kids in the front of the line and the black kids in the back. That was 35 years ago in Denver.
Okay, so I grew up in Kansas, which is very close to Denver. Like all that whole Midwest and that whole section is very white and very Bible Belty and all of that bullshit. Just as much, in my opinion, as the South.
Yes.
So
different, but yes.
Different, but
it's very volatile. Yes.
More so than it's out
in
here
California.
In California. My mom, and it sounds like your parents and parents, had that conversation about you being black and what that meant and what to expect. I don't always feel like that conversation was necessarily, but I haven't talked to my black friends here in California about it too much, except for like Dante. He'll tell me, he grew up in the projects. He's like, yeah, we knew what it was. We knew how to respond, taught how to respond to police.
I definitely taught my daughter, and she is, I moved her here when she was 9.
Right.
So it was an everyday conversation in our household as she grew up.
What do you think, Graffiti? Do you feel like people are having, people coming from into California have a different perspective of racism than most Californians? Like it feels like true Californians.
Absolutely. Well, for the public, let me just tell both of you ladies that I was born in New York City. I was born in the Bronx, raised mostly in Queens. So New York, when you grow up in the bubble of New York, that's kind of all you know. But the racism was prevalent, but a whole Hispanic community, whether it was Guatemalan, whether it was Puerto Rican, whether it was Dominican or whatever, black men and Hispanic men were like brothers.
Denver too.
In New York at least.
In Denver too.
And Kansas.
Right. So, the sisters, when I was coming up in school, junior high school, would kiss you on the cheek. Hey, Lamont, Serge was my nickname. They kiss you on the cheek. Spanish women would kiss you on the cheek same way. It was all love. And that was just it. So I'm thinking, okay, this is what the world is like this, until I went to school in the South, and I started working in the South. As a contractor, I was working in Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Tallahassee, Mississippi, and all that, right?
Yeah.
And I was rudely awakened. So I had a bad taste in my mouth, so everybody's like, won't you go get that Cali money? So I'm just like, I'm going to Cali. And Biggie was singing about it. When the law hits your lyrics, go hit you.
Yeah.
Going back to Cali, strictly for the weather, women, and the weed. I believed him. And I had to say, he did not lie.
He did not
disappoint. So,
it's interesting that you say that.
Right, but I thought, coming from the East Coast, that Cali would be more progressive. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, you see San Francisco on television from the East Coast, and you're just like, oh, there's a mix there. people stick to their own same way as we did in New York.
I'm telling you.
You know what I mean?
I was shocked when I moved to the capital of California.
Wow.
I'm like, what is happening?
It's hella
here?
country, right?
It is. There's nothing but pastures and rice fields and cornfields, and I had so much more racism than I did even with being a lesbian.
Do you want to hear something
I
about?
felt like they were more upset that I was with a white woman than the fact that I was with a woman, which was completely different than
Wow.
it was in Georgia. But when I went from Denver to Atlanta, in Denver, I always had black boyfriends, right? Always. But then when I moved to Atlanta, my accent prevented black men from thinking I was black enough. So I was not attractive to them. And I didn't have the weave and the braids and so and that's when I started dating white men.
Wow.
Wow.
So,
And do you feel like the white men that you dated had more like, what do you want to call it, flavor, or were ingrained in with the black culture?
Ooh, I'm getting old, so yes, for sure. They understood my culture in terms of music and the way they dressed and the way I dressed. That was something that they had already incorporated into their lives. But you got to think, I was in Decatur, Georgia. That's where Outkast is from. That's where Goody Mob is from. Like the whole Dungeon family, like that influence was very heavy when I was 14, 15 years old. So if you didn't understand black culture, you didn't belong in that city, right? And so, I mean, when I finally became more attractive to black men, it was late into my teenage years, and I always felt like they were always playing me, which really intertwines with the whole daddy issue, right? You start thinking about where, like, that trust, that bond.
Ooh, that's a whole nother episode.
Right. And I know that, but I just wanted to touch on that as some of the subconscious things or reasons why I wasn't actively, like, gunning and fighting to date a black man who wasn't attracted to me anyway, right? So I think that is how that part of me where I date interracially brewed, because I want to feel attractive and safe and loved and wanted.
Wow.
And I didn't feel that going into the South.
Yeah, you
like
felt
I
rejected
did when I was in Denver.
Right. That makes total sense. And you know, it's funny for me because, like, I got rejected by my black peers in Kansas a ton because of my accent or the way I talked, or the fact that I didn't know all the words to Erykah Badu's song.
Blasphemy.
I know, but like my mom wasn't bumping Erykah Badu,
right.
and neither were my friends. We were listening to Alanis Morissette, and and Spice Girls and that kind of thing. So, and we didn't have a real R&B radio station in Wichita, Kansas.
Oh, that's so sad.
Like I would watch BET, and I knew
snippets. Yeah,
I would get little tidbits of it. My mom would send me to church, and put me in stuff. I was in Black Girl Scouts, like those kind of things. But I got rejected a lot of times by my white peers. I mean, my black peers.
Yeah.
And then when I would go to elementary school, like I tried my best to fit in with my white peers, but I still kind of felt a little bit like an outsider. So I had to become someone they wanted around. So
a chameleon.
So I like sang all their songs and I made them laugh. Like I was totally, cooning for them, and not even knowing it, but I just wanted.
It's survival.
I wanted
that
acceptance.
Was survival.
I wanted acceptance,
yes.
And most of the kids that went to that school were not my color. So yeah, I had crushes on Scott and Brandon and like all these, you know what I'm saying?
See, I had crushes on Kamal and Jason, and they didn't even see me. But Scott was like, "Hey,
but
I'm walking home."
Scott wasn't wasn't checking for me because I didn't look like him. And he couldn't take me home and say, I have a crush on Lauren. So I was rejected by the boys that were around, which were white. And then it wasn't until I moved to Vallejo, California, where I was around like more black kids and stuff. I was rejected initially, and then I had to find where the nerdy black girls that say, oh my God, or, and I kind of enmeshed myself with them until I got more comfortable literally in my blackness and like relearning, like
commingle with your people.
Yeah, because my mom would be like, oh my God, if you say like one more time and pull your hair behind your ears, I'm gonna kick your butt. Then it was like when we got to Vallejo, she was like, if you say hella one more time.
Oh boy.
So there was a point where I was like the Oreo, and then I was like kind of,
I feel you,
finding my way back to it. Now I'm like afros and all this Afrocentric stuff, and really embracing my brown skin, because growing up I was kind of taught to be ashamed of it, like be proud at home but out in public be ashamed, and just
tone it down.
Yeah, be accepted.
Right.
Be accepted, be wanted, be valued.
I think we have to work on that, because I even find myself slipping into that
all the time.
Even though I would say not nearly as much as I did even a year ago. Like, this is who I am. I'm showing up and I am apologetic about my blackness. If I make you uncomfortable, that's really good. I'm doing my job, because I want you to stay over there in your space and you don't get to invade mine, right? And embracing that. And then as a team, we have to remind each other of that, and just pushing each other to be transparently black, who we are as queens. And not let the Candace Owen cooning.
Woo! Now that's one that does get under my skin, and where I'm just like, I wants to call her out her name.
So, but what do we do? Do we draw more attention to it? Do we draw more attention to it by posting something about it and explaining it away?
No, I just say, like, she don't represent me, she don't speak for me, I don't identify with her, and keep it like.
Hold on now. Along with Candace Owens, off camera, us people in here were talking about a segment of a future podcast you ladies are looking to just jump off, called Bay.
Bay.
Yes.
On that segment, y'all were talking about on that podcast, y'all talking about having a segment of just what you don't like.
Absolutely.
And
stuff we don't want to talk about.
But we got to.
Kind of the weather thing, correct me if I'm wrong here, but kind of the premise is like, we don't want to bring attention to this, but it's dominant in culture right now.
Absolutely, it's
so
trending.
So we're going to say about 60 seconds worth of words on it, and then we're done.
Exactly.
So is Candace Owens on that list?
She is definitely on that list. And you know what she reminds me of? Is a movie that you brought up earlier, Django.
Oh, Django! Yes!
She is
Samuel L. Jackson. Yes.
Wow.
Yep. I immediately.
Whenever I see a picture of Samuel L. Jackson and Leonardo, I just superimpose Candace Owens' face.
Wait. What about that cartoon, The Boondocks? What was it?
I never watched that.
Oh, The Boondocks. Oh, it's so good.
What's his name?
I know exactly.
With the crazy eye?
With the crazy freaking eye.
I need to watch that. This cartoon has been brought up so many times.
Make no mistake, I will be showing both of them on film. Probably side by side at some point. So thank you for throwing me the alley.
Glad you got it.
She is on that list.
Yes, and while we're here, we can go one or two places. It's a suggestion. Y'all queen, y'all go where you want to go, but this is just a suggestion. Either we could talk about Bay, what Bay is going to be, or we could talk about this young lady right here, and let's get into the relationships, because we promised we'd talk about your relationships on the Get Back, and we didn't get there yet. So it's on y'all.
It's up to you. I'm easy.
Tell your story, Dad.
I just was kind of touching on it, you know, just being surrounded by black people in Denver and not knowing anything else, right? And then being met with such disdain for having a different black experience than the children that I was going to school with in Atlanta, and not having that accessibility anymore, and just having to pivot. And I want to say that for the most part, every man that I've dated, white man that I've dated, has been extremely kind, almost too kind. Like, am I gonna blow on you and you're gonna blow over, right?
Okay, don't talk about it.
You know, like, don't sit here and cry because we're having a conversation. I need you to, you know, actually feel what I'm saying and then take an action step. But I feel where the most disconnect has happened is in that meeting of the families. Because
Really?
no matter what,
Okay.
every single white family has one or two racist people that are not just racist, but they are aggressively racist
Agreed.
and extremely uncomfortable.
This
with your
is
presence.
what you speak is facts.
Yeah.
Let's bring people's attention to support your facts. Is that when the footage went out, when the protests went out for George Floyd, it was a worldwide thing. Every one of the 50 states protested, and they were in Paris, they were in
Absolutely.
London, they were freaking protesting
It was
in
beautiful.
Australia. So what does that mean? You know what I mean? America, get your shit together, but then there racism problem is rampant. There are
All over the world.
racist people all
Oh
over
yeah,
the place.
it's most. I mean, like you look at Australia, how they did the Aboriginals.
Right.
You know, like there
Oh.
was tons of slavery in Europe for the longest time. South America, Africa, like the colonialism that's gone in South Africa,
Absolutely.
and the apartheid, like all of that. It's everywhere.
Right, so all of these people came out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now, it did. So obviously, they weren't turning a blind eye, is my point. Like, oh, we don't understand what you're talking about. They came out and protested something that happened a half world away. So, I'm getting back to those families. So how was it when you were meeting the families? When girlfriend meets either boyfriend family or girlfriend family?
Yes.
What's going on when those families collide?
I wouldn't say families collided. It was just me and my daughter. I wouldn't. My mother was somewhat involved at times, but I would. In the beginning, I would leave a house crying because someone had said something to me that was inappropriate, and the disconnect then would be your partner or your boyfriend or girlfriend choosing you or their family, right? But and it has happened in every single one of my relationships. Some more more obtuse, and some just the subtle things. My ex-girlfriend, my ex-wife, I'm sorry, her mother, when she first met me, said, "She's gorgeous, but she's really dark."
She's gorgeous, but she's really dark. How did you interpret that?
That being really dark isn't gorgeous, right?
Okay, right.
You're very beautiful, but you are just if you weren't so dark. But did you hear recently that in casting calls that they actually have women graded? So there's A, B, C, D.
Yeah, I heard about it.
A, blonde hair, blue eyes. D, darker skin, natural hair.
Yeah.
Right? So that's just what society says is true. And that's how and for the longest time, here's my excuse. They're old. Just let them be.
Wow.
I made an excuse
They've
and a
always
path.
been that way.
I cleared the path for them to behave that way by saying, you can't teach an old white man, white woman new tricks. And
they can learn how to use a cell phone.
As I've evolved, it's, you don't get the pleasure of my company. So the first time I feel, I just don't go back, right? And will that ruin a relationship? Possibly. But it's not worth the risk of my soul and my security and my confidence to succumb to being around someone's family member who I know hates me because I'm so dark.
On Game of Thrones, Jon Snow said that everything that is said before the word "but" is horseshit. So when somebody says you're gorgeous, but
that's how you really feel.
Right. I'm footnoting it, trying, but I'm throwing shade or whatever. What you said is fascinating to me because as a writer of novels, right, I have in my mind what these characters look like. However, as I matured and I got some silver whiskers on my face, it was just like, it's really not about the picture you have in your mind, but who could sell it? Who could sell the role?
Who could embody?
Yes.
Actors like Sidney Poitier, he got that notion out. He would routinely go for white roles, and he was so freaking good that he would make the white producers rethink the whole role of itself until he got big enough to where things were custom written for him. This is all facts. I'm glad we're having a conversation. We're gonna wrap this segment up. We're at the 20-minute mark, and I love the conversation. It's crazy. When we come back, we'll talk about Bay a little bit. We will.
This half of Bay has a little surprise for you.
Talk about wherever y'all want to go.
What about Zuda?
All right.
We can talk about Bay and Zuda.
And we'll talk about that as well. We will be right.
Is it made out of what?
Green.
Oh no, that's cut glass.
It's platinum.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, she's talking about
Your necklace.
Is it made out of a braid, a real braid? No, it's like rope. You want to feel it? It's like rope. It looks like human hair, doesn't it? Give me a whoop.
We cut your hair last night while you were sleeping and made the rope.
Ready? Let me know when you're ready.
We dyed it.
Go ahead, go.
But you promoters are. How can I make your ugly beautiful? First I have to go to that ugly place, put it in verse and give it perspective. Raw dog, no contraceptive, only to give birth to a beautiful truth. My beautiful truth to be exact. Since we are all aware of the fact that your truth and my truth are probably not the same. One ugly is promoters and poets so eager to blow up in the game that they lose sight of their artistic vision, blinded by the flashing lights of fame. Trying to be P. Diddy. But you wouldn't do an internship or take a train ride into the city. You see, there's even an art to being a gangster for the paper. Unwilling to put the work in, counterfeit becomes the cape. Without having any integrity for the creative process, investing in nonsense, short money, talking fast and sounding funny. These big dummies. Some create awards for themselves that don't exist. Some claim to be on the bestseller list. Trying to get love from the fans, ugly like a missed dunk from a player trying to be flashy who could have won the game with an assist. What part of the game is this? You've done lost your mind thinking art is disposable. This is a lyrical lobotomy to see if you have any brains left to view. Ew, it's ugly in there too. All I see are thoughts filled with the slave's mentality. Every time I tell you, hey, we free, you turn around and get mad at me. Metaphorically and systematically trying to make slaves out of the rest of us. Filling the game with mistrust and disgust, lust led you here to this ugly place. You aren't lusting for hot bars, though. You're lusting for sold-out shows without buying into the concept of practice, practice, practice. And it's really okay if you happen to lack this caliber of skill to spring forward so your time falls back quick. What good is fame and being in it if it's only for 15 minutes? Minute 16 shows no traces of your career. And I find it hard not to stare because the ugly doesn't stop there. Ugly is everywhere. It's at the open mic sitting in the captain's chair, making the dope spitters wait while the mediocre verses fill the air. I can go on and on hurting your feelings like I don't have a care. But I have a job to do. And remember, this piece of art must turn your ugly into something beautiful. Besides, there are many things uglier than artists not getting paid at the venue. There's that ugly that hides inside the bold bluffs of the fearful. Steady fronting like they're prepared to be reckless, but really being overly careful. Knowledge of self was left behind on this trip, so they can't see themselves in the rear view. I understand they don't know any better, and that's why I overstand you. The fear of love, the fear of pain, the fear of not being a success can make you see what isn't there and make you fold under the stress. But you promoters are the type to live fearful but somehow maintain composure. That's why I took it to the streets and parked the metaphors parallel so that this poet could expose you. Breaking you down like the pies you should have sliced for my team that uses art as their profession. And now that the team ate and be crumbling the pie plate, let's get right back to the question. How can I make your ugly beautiful? Testimony is the start. I observe your wicked ways, that I turn them into art.
We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy.
She was talking to me about, like, you know, witnessing like MLK being part of the revolution. Like, she had the big afro with the dashiki and stuff like that, and she just said, like, she started crying. She's like, I never thought that I would
I feel so bad for them. I'm so fucking mad. That is what makes me mad.
Yeah, that
is where my anger lies.
Yeah,
is that I'm having to talk to women in their 60s and 70s and how devastated they are that this is happening again.
And to hear her cry the way she did when she started talking about seeing that man's knee on George Floyd's neck and him crying out for his mom. Like, she just, like, she started sobbing. And I mean, I cried too, but, like, I just heard the pain. Like,
yeah,
the trauma, all the, her life of trauma.
Every black person in this country needs free mental health care.
Yeah.
That should be one of our most prominent demands. We all need it. But I was watching that show on Oprah, and I was loosely watching it and studying it at the same time. And one of the speakers said the reason why this particular killing hit her differently is that usually we're seeing, like, images through a body cam, so we're only seeing the black man. But this time, we're looking dead at the cop, like, in his eyes.
Like, there was no soul.
The soulless cop.
No soul in those eyes.
Speaking of soulless, I want to talk to you a little bit about Zuda Yoga.
Girl, I've been ready.
I want to talk to you about yoga in general and how these places are supposed to be sanctuaries for healing, right? Welcoming to all, and how they have been extremely colonized, and that they pray to a black god, right? So I'm building all of these things. And for so long, it has been easy to sweep the African community's cries under a rug, right? And we've given everybody excuses for it. Me, oh, they're too old, just let it be. Or no one got hurt physically, so just ignore it, right? But right now, everyone is speaking out and speaking out loudly about everything. And one of the things that's happening in the yoga community is if these communities have not come out and made a statement, their community of practitioners are saying it loud, okay?
Oh.
This particular woman, Anne-Marie Kramer, owns Zuda Yoga Midtown. And she has had many chances. I have a white friend who's an ally, and she's extremely invested in doing the work. I may have talked to you about her, Corey.
And I've seen her post.
Yes, she left Zuda Yoga.
Shout out to her.
Shout out to Corey Nectar.
Hey, Corey.
She has a Instagram account called Talk to Your White Friends. If you're white out there and you need some resources, go there.
That's what's up. I'm a follower.
Yeah, it's great. It's really great. And she left this community because she was warning Anne-Marie that her behavior was racist and problematic, and she would not listen. Would not listen. This was 2 years ago. Well, honey, it exploded. Okay. Recently, she lost 3 instructors back to back to back. They publicly left and said, I cannot be associated with Zuda. But they didn't say specifically Anne-Marie is a racist, which she did say today online, which we'll get to. But she finally, 10 days after George's murder, made a post, and it never once said Black Lives Matter. It just said something about community healing, and we're all in this together. They came for her throat. Okay, black girls made stories about how she asked them to be in photo shoots just because she needed a black person there.
Wow.
It just went on and on and on. And today she ended she refused to say Black Lives Matter in the first post. So she came again, I guess she got a PR specialist, finally said Black Lives Matter. Today,
I hope these PR specialists are black that they're hiring too.
They're getting paid, right?
The kente cloth picture, I digress. But
wait, hold on. What are you referring to?
Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, yes! I thought that's where you were going, but I looked at Allie, and this was what started the MLK fight the other night. I said, what does she do? Wake up one day and say, I want to relate to the Black American people. And so, I am going to dress in traditional African attire. And how does she think that was going to be soothing?
I felt like...
Please, tell me.
I was completely floored. That was another time. See, I take those moments where I get pissed off or irritated, and I think I've gotten really good at just tucking them away.
Yeah.
And so, like, that, I remember being like, what the fuck?
I completely ignored that.
You know, a lot of what I think makes people mad is the constant the constant repeating of insincerity. As a people, we just want you to be sincere. So mourn how you mourn.
Right.
So if Nancy Pelosi and all the powers that be mourn how they mourn, fly the flags at half-mast, dress in all black.
Right.
You know what I mean? Take a knee, 8 minutes and however many seconds.
Or say their names.
And saying their names, then other races to which you've been insensitive to thus far, we see sincerity in that because we know that's how you get down.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? We know
that
when
makes so much
it's
sense.
somebody you love, when it's Republican, Democrat, or whatever, and you want to honor them, you fly the flags at half-mast, everybody a day, and America mourn.
Oh,
and
man.
all that jazz, how y'all get down. So
Equality.
So when y'all looking like y'all are down with Farrakhan now, we look at it like this.
You're mocking us.
Right, we're just like, you still don't
It's
understand.
like when they come and go like, yo, what's up, my homies?
Right.
Or like that kind of thing where they're trying to like meet you where you're at and it's like, I'm not there with you.
Right.
We are not there.
Right.
You came in too familiar. Like you came and put your feet up on my plastic.
Right. You didn't even ask me if you should take your shoes off in the house.
Yeah, that's kind of what that feels like.
So she ends today, and then I'm going to let this go, but it's been weighing heavily on my heart. And I want to say one thing before I just finish with Anne-Marie Kramer. She did something very kind for me one day. I'd seen her, I was out, it was right before I started teaching cycle, so I was taking cycle a lot, and I was very familiar with all the instructors, and I've had some influence in the fitness community in Sacramento. Most people know who I am. Mm-hmm. And she saw me and asked me why I hadn't come back. I said I can't afford to go to your studio and to be going to Team Ride is where I was going at the time. And I said I'll pop in and take a class, and when I did, I realized that I had a year membership, so she must have given me access to the club for a year.
Dope.
Do I feel like it was coming from a sincere place where she cared about me and wanted me to have access to yoga? No. Did it come from a place where I post a lot about where I'm working out and a lot of people go to work out where I'm at? Yes, that's how I felt. And so as people have been dragging her online, a part of me wants to get in there, and this is what we do as black women, right? What do? We save them.
Right.
Let me tell you how she was good to me this one time. But I knew if I did that, I would be negating the experience of so many others as she has harmed psychologically, physically, and emotionally, and spiritually. So today, here she goes with her white woman tears. White women, you know I love you, but you got to stop. You gotta stop. She gets on and says, and I should have had this pulled up, so forgive me, I'm new to this podcasting game. First of all, it's a picture, and it says, I am a racist. Okay? This is the picture she posts. Okay? So that's jarring anyway. Right? And here we go.
Let me see the picture, please. Okay. Oh, wow.
I realized today I am a racist.
Oh, here we go.
I have never considered this for myself as I grew up fighting my father on this issue. I, like most, see souls, not color. Okay, we gotta do better at that. We all see color. Even hearing that word makes me my skin crawl and cringe into shame and protest. Yet here I am on my knees. I want to scream, run and hide, teach me. That is the problem.
Run and hide, teach me.
I want to run and hide, teach me. So
that's when people who are down with the knowledge, who don't look like us, should take it upon themselves to.
And they are.
Okay.
And there are a couple of things that I'm privy to that I will not share publicly as to why she put that post out. It's clean up. There's no sincerity in it. And she has been offered many chances to help and has not. And she still has people working for her that are good people that have been doing the work. And I feel like that is another way that she is asserting her power at the detriment to other people. And those are the leaders that we have in Sacramento running our yoga studios. And it is completely horrific. We got to do better.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm sad for a number of reasons, but going back for a second to tell you my point. When I saw Nancy Pelosi and those guys in African garb, I understood the intent, but I was sad for them. I was sad for them because I was just like, as soon as I saw it, I was just like, we've got a long way to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've got a long way to go. And I feel the same way when I hear of the post you were talking about and all that stuff. I mean, America, I understand when you haven't faced a part of yourself for a long time, you know, the more you ignore it, the bigger the monster becomes. So in life, period, in all of our lives, you two ladies and myself, and everybody watching this, and everybody within the sound of my voice, every time there was something that you knew you needed your attention, but you put off, and you put it in the closet, it was eating away at you so slow.
Absolutely.
And becoming such this huge thing because you just wouldn't face it. Mm-hmm. And I find posts like that and the things we've been talking about throughout these 4 volumes, and we're almost going to wrap this up, is the same thing. It's like, are we going to evolve? Are we going to finally turn the page? Yeah, sure. At one time, we were in caves. Sure.
Right.
You know what I mean? Sure.
Eventually.
You know, we had to figure out wheels and rubber and steel.
And we didn't have to reinvent them. We keep building
and all
on
that
it.
stuff. And I understand why our ignorance was how it was. You know, it took thousands of years for people to migrate out of Africa, become lighter, and then hate the very thing in which they came from. I understand how that happens, but in a world where you have information at your fingertips.
We just sent a man to the moon again.
Right, we are not in the 1800s, we are not 2000 BC. This is a great opportunity to say, okay, let's evolve.
We have a 3D printer.
Right, let's evolve.
Right, we can take 3D photographs with our cell phone. Yeah, and someone brought it to.
Let's certainly do something else.
Yeah.
Someone brought it to my attention that, right, I think the Civil Rights Bill was 64, right? Mm-hmm. And just 5 years after that, we sent a man to the moon. But 5 years before that, just figured out that all the people here on Earth need to be treated with equality, which, not saying the Civil Rights Bill did a damn thing, because it didn't, but just that whole thought that we can be so progressive in thought.
It was a pacifier, the Civil Rights Bill. It was a pacifier.
And still so bottom-brained, lower-brain level thinking here on Earth is quite the dichotomy.
Yeah, that's what they keep doing, is they keep like throwing MLK and the civil rights and I said it earlier, affirmative action, like all of those things. They're like
right, and
they're pacifiers. Like, here, we're giving you this, now shut up.
And this is it's all of that was based in big fear.
Yes.
You know what I mean? There was a lot of fear. And again, are we going to be a planet of fearful people? You know what I mean? Let's create a system where the cream actually rises to the top, where on the strength of who you are as a person and character and your skill set,
absolutely,
you go as high. How many men of any color, women of any color, were killed for any reason? That were the future Vincent Van Goghs, Maya Angelou's, Barack Obamas. How many Barack Obamas have we killed?
Ugh.
You know, how many Alanis Morissettes died through rape or through women not getting a chance?
60,000 black women missing from the U.S. last year.
How many Angela Bassett's were in those women missing? How many Louis Farrakhan's?
Well, and that's what and we're villainized, but then like literally we have documentaries on Netflix where everybody has Netflix nowadays, where we're talking about the president was associated with a man
Who was a monster.
who was a monster.
And turned up dead.
But because he could make sizable donations, everybody
He was
just
protected
Yeah.
until he was caught. And then he was no longer useful and killed himself. in his cell.
yeah. But
Like,
we'll just talk about that. Like
Ooh.
it's just like, you know, but George Floyd deserved to die because he made a few mistakes in his life. That's
knee-jerk reaction. That's what they always say.
yeah.
Propaganda is a huge part of everything. Every time they wanted to kill the Native American, he was a savage.
A savage.
Oh,
Every
absolutely.
time they want to paint somebody, even from the Vietnam War, from the Iraqi War. There are narratives that people want to paint to justify violence.
What they're doing.
And it helps a lot of white guilt.
For sure.
To believe that somehow, because you have the color of your skin, your soul isn't equal to their soul. Your propensity for intelligence, wherewithal,
It definitely cannot
isn't
be
the
on
same.
par as theirs.
I have to believe you are some sort of less than animal.
To make myself feel
so that I can even
self-incapable.
feel good.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? But America is in their own dichotomy to piggyback off of your word that you just used, because when Michael Vick kills a dog,
Ooh! Prison, off to prison he goes.
there are some people that had believed that he should never work in the NFL again, even after he served his time. You know, and paid all of his fines. So, America, we have a lot of work to do. We're going to wrap up these 4 volumes. We're definitely going to talk more. Ladies, thank God for both of you. Thank you so much. Anything you guys want to say before we're out of here? Final words.
I love you and I appreciate you.
I love you and I appreciate you too, babe.
How do they even find you? We're not even going to say how to find you on the gram. None of that.
You can
I'll
follow
put it
me
up on
at
the screen.
QFlow. I think it's Q_flow, FLOW. And my Facebook account is my name, Quiana Florence, Quiana. And ladies, if you're African American and you have a big name like Quiana, correct them every time. Don't let them shorten your name, please. Thank you.
Nice.
And you can find me on IG at LOKEE730 or on Facebook at Lauren Page.
That's a wrap.
Very much. Rapsies.
Fun.
Just like a small gold